About 4 years ago I decided to go small and got a 29 feet fifth wheel for my 3 cats and myself, and got lucky enough to find a spot in a park that was basically perfect for us. Pretty much anything I needed was within walking distance or a 5-minute drive, and my cats were allowed to run around on the provision that they had access to an outdoor litter box that I would maintain in my space, and that they didn't cause any problems with noise, fighting with other cats, etc. The rent was reasonable and fixed for 2 years with all utilities included except electric. So honestly I was thrilled. About a year and a half went by and all seemed well until one evening I returned home from work to find a note taped to my door. I unfolded it to find that a complaint had been made against my cats to park management and I needed to come into the office to have a talk about some things. This was my first note from management in my time there, and my only real interaction with them had been the occasional waivers I passed by the office or the monthly rent payment ritual. It was already 1845, so I decided to wait until the next morning. In the interest of avoiding further complications I brought my boys inside for the night and settled into bed around 2300 hours. I awoke around 8:15 to someone pounding on my door. It actually loosened the hinge pin on my interior door handle, and I opened it to meet Karen. I say this because not only did she truly embody the very essence of Karenhood, it was also her name. Me, bleary and barely awake. Can I help you? Karen, on what I can only presume is her 5th bottle of cold brewed coffee. Hi, Ebola Rambash Wards. I'm Karen, the new park manager, and we need to have a talk about your cats. Okay. Yes, she literally said okay. Like, a lot / Kilman point gif / me. Yes, I saw your note, and I was planning to come by when I got up. Karen, well the office has been open since 7 o'clock, so I just thought you were avoiding me. Me, well I typically work nights, so I'm not usually up at 7 o'clock. Karen, oh, so you're the roll out of bed around noon type, then. This sounded incredibly condescending, whether it was meant to or not. Me, usually closer to 10 o'clock, but I'm awake now. Let me throw on some people clothes and I'll be right over. Okay. Karen nodded awkwardly, probably realizing for the first time how ridiculous she sounded, and walked back to the office. Now I'm not a morning person, as due to some medical issues that I won't go into here I have a bit of a pill ritual that requires food and lots of water or I spend the day in bed or the restroom. Figuring this wouldn't take too long I popped in a coffee pod while I got dressed and fed the boys, then strolled to the office with a cup in hand but no food, water, or pills in my system as of yet. Karen, I was about to start thinking you'd gone back to sleep. It had been 15 minutes maximum since she had left, 20 since she had awakened me. Me, sorry, I had to feed my cats and wake up a wee bit. / gestures with mug now what can I do for you? I worked in bars for almost 2 decades, so I'm putting on my diplomatic conflict resolution hat to start with. Karen, well your cats are the issue that we are here to discuss. We've had some complaints that they've been harassing some of the other guests' smaller animals, and people have said they've seen animals pooping under your trailer, which is a violation of the space rental agreement. Me, wow. I'm sorry to hear that they're attacking other animals. I didn't think they were aggressive like that. As for the poop though, I have an addendum to my rental agreement that allows me to have an outdoor litter box. I can show it to you if you like. Karen, no. I know about your agreement air quotes unnecessarily but that's up in about 6 months, so I think it's time we renegotiate again. Seriously lady, / the terms. Me, so basically we are talking about changes that need to be made by the time this lease is up, and you're being a champ and giving me a 6-month heads up. Cool. This is not what she was trying to do, but again, diplomacy. Karen, yes, that's the gist of it. 15 minutes and several mks later I walked out of the office with a horrible stomachache and a few pieces of important information. 1. An outdoor litter box would be permitted as long as it was enclosed and not under my trailer. 2. Permanent or freestanding enclosures are not allowed. This was meant to apply to sheds and the like, but Karen decided to use this to make my outdoor cat box an impossibility. 3. My cats would be permitted outside as long as they were in an enclosed area and or on a leash. 4. Pet fences over 3 feet high were not permitted and must be removed when not in use. My newfound knowledge in writing, I set out to find a solution to the problem, but I kept running into one thing or another that would break the rules. So after about a week of frustration, I decided to ask for a copy of my upcoming lease renewal, as I like to adhere to the letter of the law. Karen gleefully printed it up and signed it in front of me, as apparently she'd already drafted it and was expecting to deliver it to me well before the end of my current lease. I didn't even look at it until I got back to my place, but then, cue malicious compliance. The new lease said essentially what I thought it would. Basically that if I could find a way to adhere to all of these rules simultaneously, there wouldn't be a problem, but the tiniest infraction would result in a park fine. I began looking at the technical definitions of the words used in the lease and finally discovered something that worked in my favor. Freestanding, not supported by another structure. This was it, my ace in the hole. I now had an idea. I was still making payments on the trailer, and one of the stipulations of the finance agreement was that I maintained full coverage insurance on it until it was paid off. That meant that I could potentially report any damage to any part of the trailer, inside and out, to my insurance company and they would cover it. My door awning, a standard 16x 8 foot vinyl awning, was about 20 years old and badly in need of replacement, so I called around and found a place that does awning repair and installation, as well as solarium design. I met with a consultant, Mick, on Friday afternoon and told him exactly what I needed and why. He smirked and asked for my insurance information, then told me he would call me the following Monday. Monday rolls around, and my boys have been inside all weekend, so we are all going a bit crazy being cooped up together for so long at a time, and I was awake at 9 o'clock when the phone rang. I ran to it gleefully, expecting to find Mick on the other end of the line, but instead I found a representative from my insurance company who was calling to inform me that my repairs have been covered and my deductible was something like $430. Not ideal, but given the scope of what was about to happen I didn't mind too much. I went to the office and told Karen's husband, Dave, your wife is a bee, that I was having my awning repaired and was just waiting for an installer to call me. Fast forward 10 days, Karen and Dave went out of town for the weekend. So while they were gone, Mick and his crew spent 9 hours over 2 days putting up an absolutely gorgeous screened outdoor dining enclosure with a snap-on canvas outer shell, and the whole thing was supported by the awning bracket and a cleverly designed series of poles that made absolutely certain that there was no way it could be interpreted as freestanding or permanent, and since it was definitely not a fence and completely enclosed my outdoor litter box, I had complied with the letter of the law. Now I prefer to err on the side of caution, so I also implemented a contingency plan. I have a particularly crafty friend who enjoys a challenge and was very much in the spirit of what I was trying to do, so he helped me build a 10x 7 foot interior wooden enclosure that used the poles for the side screen wall of the awning extension as its primary support. So again, not freestanding. We also isolated a path between the RV door and the enclosure door, as well as blocking off the undercarriage to help corral the cats. Sunday evening, Karen comes home to find this classy Brobdingnagian fumigation tent attached to my RV and, as expected, throws a fit. She comes stomping over, but can't find the door flap. It wasn't marked. If I wanted her to know, or if she'd bothered to ask, I probably would have told her, but she didn't give me the chance. So she walks back to her car, drives over, and starts honking her horn until I come out. Mind you, I'm sitting about 15 feet from her inside the enclosure, calmly smoking a cigarette and petting one of my cats. I'll let the honking go on for about 30 seconds. As predicted, she started screaming at me about how this was clearly a violation of the lease, but I spent the next 15 minutes showing her exactly how it was not in any way, and since the lease made no distinction as to what I could do, but focused rather on what I could not do, size restrictions, etc., there was no language indicating that I had done anything wrong. Karen then tried to claim that the lease agreement was 6 months out and could still be changed, at which point I pulled out the signed copy she gave me and showed her that I had signed and dated it the day she gave it to me. She then tried to argue that I had forged her signature and created the document myself. I then informed her that I had sent a copy of the document to my insurance company a few weeks prior and we were both in the office under the surveillance cameras when she printed, signed, and handed it to me. They still have one of those old 4-panel black and white surveillance systems and the monitor is on the counter in the office, right underneath the camera covering the entire office. I can't remember what happened next exactly, but I do know that Karen tried to remove the non-load bearing screen wall that isolated the door pathway and ended up getting stuck in the screen, breaking the frame, falling over, and threatening me with a lawsuit, at which point my neighbor came over and stated loudly through the enclosure that it wasn't soundproof and he'd heard everything that happened. Bob, I could kiss you if you weren't so weird and gross. In the end I got to keep my enclosure and several other people in the park noticed my solution and did the same as quickly as possible. Within the next few months I became something of a hero to some of the longtime residents of the park, because apparently I wasn't the only one being harassed, I was just the first one to find a solution. Oh, and as it turns out the complaint was made by Karen to herself, because she wanted to let her small dog run around, but couldn't stop him from chasing cats. That was 2.5 years ago, and I'm still in the same spot. Karen and her husband, on the other hand, were found to be too volatile to manage the park and were relocated by the same owner to a 24-hour storage warehouse outside of town, where they provide on-site security. I still see them every so often when they come to get propane, because it's cheaper here, even though they don't get the park resident discount anymore. I have a bit of a woodshop set up in my new space outside, and I now have 6 cats, a wife, and a stepdaughter who all love their indoor-outdoor porch. Thank you for watching. Slap that like button and comment your opinion on these stories below. I'm waiting. Write that comment. Seriously. Have you written it yet? If you don't comment, you make a bunny cry somewhere. You're not that kind of person, I know. Anyways, peace out, and catch you tomorrow.